Welcome back to Beards and Brews. This week's review is going to be 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Dracula.
Oh man,
You
guys,
guys are
I have
just trying
some.
to piss me off, aren't you? This
I
is the
have some
second
great.
damn movie with Keanu Reeves.
Whoa!
It's the man. He's grown young again.
I fucking hate Keanu Reeves.
Doo-doo-doo.
Like, I really just wanted to watch Dracula Dead and Loving It instead, just to see how much I could fake my way through.
I mean, like the last third of the movie is totally Dracula Dead and Loving It. I mean, at one point I was just like, the gang goes to kill Dracula. You know, like some episode of Always Sunny.
No shit. No shit. Now that you're bringing that up, on about page 5 of my notes, I just write the gang, the boys.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
the
just
boys.
the boys. That's all it was.
But for real, this is our second fucking Keanu Reeves film, and we still don't have any goddamn Swayze. We want fucking Roadhouse.
Well,
Dang.
you could pick your own movies, Mr. fucking Scott Pilgrim. It could have been, Scott Pilgrim, or it could have been Roadhouse. Pain don't hurt.
All you gotta do is just tear somebody's throat out. Yeah.
Apparently, pain hurt that guy.
But anyway, if anybody doesn't know the backstory of Dracula, sorry. Because that's what this movie starts with. Like, you just have a little bit of, like, why Vlad the Impaler is impaling people, really.
You get, introduced to Gary Oldman. Holy shit, Gary Oldman. Just him in that armor that he's wearing, like the vampire fleshy looking shit.
Yeah, I called it muscle armor, because it just looks like muscle fibers.
Yeah. If anyone's looking for a movie where you can see the range of fucking Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins, this is it. You may not love the movie for whatever, but just watching Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins perform in this film is out of this world.
Anthony Hopkins alone is having, 120% fun in this movie. He's just having just a gay old time. I'm serious. This dude.
He was having a lot more fun than I was.
Oh.
But whenever he's running around doing all that, the impaling in the name of God, and it's got that mix of the live action and the cool shadow puppetry thing in the background, I thought that was really neat. I like a lot of the visuals they do.
This movie has a ton of great ideas and cinematography, but I couldn't help but giggle every time he murdered someone and just think, they had it coming.
Yeah, definitely did.
Now, this movie was famously or infamously directed by Francis Ford Coppola, so there is a whole lot of just creative genius in here, but it's just kind of thrown throughout. It's not really one consistent era of genius. It's just you'll occasionally get some really awesome visuals, and then you'll say, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, there are times where there are a couple times where you get Bob Ross backgrounds. We're just going to put a happy little guy on a pike right over here.
But the 90s were just I don't know, a really cheap firework for fucking Coppola, because just before this, he had just finished Godfather Part 3, which, holy shit, I don't know if the cast can even handle that movie. That's just a fucking mess. And then after this, he does Jack with Robin Williams, which is just what? Okay. So you have the guy going from The Godfather, then Apocalypse Now, and then the 90s just fucking, tries to burn his house down or something.
I'm just saying, I'm never going to watch Jack again. That shit is one of the most depressing films I've ever seen in my life.
It's a little rough.
But yeah, we get Dracula, putting people on pikes in the name of God. There's a lot of Latin speak. He gets this vibe that his woman has died. She has cast herself into the river. He comes back, finds out, becomes so distraught. This is what has always got me into Gary Oldman. This performance that he does whenever he finds out his love, Elizabetha, is dead. When he's fucking beating on his chest, denouncing God, screaming in Latin, swinging a sword, fucking tears rolling out of his eyes, stabbing the cross, drinking the blood, screaming. I was like, fuck, this dude is putting on a show.
He really was. And I love that the priests were just like, man, look, everybody dies. It's cool. Don't worry about it. He just goes even harder.
Yeah. I mean, fucking wow. He was committed, and it's fucking astounding. Now, Chandler, you said you don't like the film. How do you feel about Gary Oldman's performance throughout?
Oh, man.
as Emmanuel T. Dracula.
Like, I guess the accent was too much. Like, every time he spoke. Now, I've got nothing but love for Gary Oldman, but it was just too, like, I realize that's the voice that everyone thinks of whenever they think of Dracula, but it's like, I'm Dracula. It's so, like, come on, man.
Gary Oldman was just that pretentious art fart, and you're just like, shut the fuck up.
Not even that. It's like he's fucking putting on a Halloween costume or something. Like, I just can't.
Well, I mean, did you see the muscles on his armor? The dude's ripped.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, bruh, is I would take his accent over Keanu Reeves. And
Oh, sure. But Keanu Reeves' accent is, wow. That's, wow. Okay.
English surfer dude. Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm about to catch some waves, my lady. Just,
Oh man, he tried. I felt so bad the entire time.
I know. The worst thing is his best time on screen is when he's there and he's not fucking saying anything. Like, he's fine if he's just sitting there. You're like, oh, look, it's Keanu Reeves. And then he fucking talks and you go, no. Stop it. Just go back to sitting there.
The only one who I will give, like, thorough, full-on props to across the whole thing is Winona Ryder. And honestly, not because she did anything spectacular or anything. I just don't think she fucked up any of what she was doing. Like, her accent wasn't abysmal. Her acting wasn't terrible. She was just, like, that's what she's supposed to do. Good on her.
Well, look at there. There you go. You found something good.
Yeah, there's a lot of great acting in this movie. But the difference between the great acting and everything else is such a steep fucking cliff. You know, it's just like this huge juxtaposition.
My wife called this a B movie with a ton of A-list actors, and you do have a lot of great actors in here, but they have all done better.
Man, I don't know. I fucking love Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins in this. I will give them fucking credit all day. And I've never seen Anthony Hopkins put on a performance where it felt more genuine. I know he's just having a good fucking time, but it works.
I mean, I have nothing against either actor, but like the rest of these guys, do you even have Carrie Ellis in there, just mustachioed and everything, just being an Englishman, I guess.
That say, and Dread Pirate Roberts walks in.
Then you've got a random cowboy.
Yeah,
Quincy.
that's all I have to say. Yeah.
There's a lot of really bad accents in this movie. Really bad. Even the Texan, like, I'm from Texas.
You gotta lock down that Americanese accent.
So after that, we get the big title screen, whatnot, and it picks up with Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves, kind of doing their things. You're like, oh look, these are some more characters.
By the way, for
Really?
something that we didn't mention before, Winona Ryder also in the very beginning played Elisabetta, or however it's pronounced, Elizabeth, the love of Count Dracula. So there's that sort of juxtaposition.
Anthony Hopkins also played the priest in the beginning.
Oh, didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
you
it's kind of like it's kind of like a reoccurring thing that these three are the main characters, and their life is intertwined, like their essence, I suppose, is intertwined, even across the oceans of time. They're going to meet back up and have this showdown where, again, on the side of God, you have Anthony Hopkins, who was a priest, the love interest, Winona Ryder, and the man who's traded his humanity for one more shot at love.
I mean, that's actually kind of sweet, but the movie kind of stinks.
So
Is this going to be Critters 2 all over again?
No, Critters 2 was just like a smorgasbord of just mess. This is much more cohesive.
yeah, this has an actual followable plot, excellent points of acting. So it's got a lot more going on than Critters 2.
As a whole, the movie has a lot more going on than Keanu Reeves' love life in this movie, because she totally wants it. He's like, no, I must go away for a couple weeks. Because he's a real estate agent, basically.
Yeah, he has to go close the account that Renfield, who's busy locked up in an asylum eating bugs instead of singing songs about, the underground on the movie Robots. Hashtag Tom Waits.
Yeah, when I first saw him, I was like, is that fucking Tom Waits? That's fucking Tom Waits. All right, well, that's what we're doing.
His performance is pretty spotty.
Oh, I was actually going to think back and say, actually, Tom Waits, that's another one that I can say, bravo, I'm into that.
Really?
So, yeah.
Really?
I find it unremarkable because when I think of Renfield, I just think of that gentleman from Dracula Dead and Loving and how he just fucking killed it. I can't.
Oh.
I just got to give it to him. He's the
Yeah.
best.
So this Renfield, he's got to get lives for the master. And again, it's not like the worst performance, but whenever this guy's on, Tom Waits is out there doing his thing, he gesticulates a lot.
Yeah.
And it pulls away from anything that he's doing. His face is like really good for this character because he's got a lot of range, I guess, for what he's
I think
doing.
that's the first time Tom Waits' face has ever been described as really good.
Yeah.
Dang.
But it works for the character, this mentally assaulted vampire spawns.
Tom Waits, in parentheses, mentally ill.
Yes, or is it? But yeah, he does an alright job, but then other times he'll be like, "Ooh, yes," and you can see it feels so cheesy.
That's what you think is cheesy?
Yeah,
Did you see the rest of this movie?
buddy, I did. I love this movie.
We'll move on.
Oh, we will. It's fine.
So yeah, Theodore Logan's on his way to Transylvania, so he can just shine this little deal. So turns out that Dracula wants to buy Carfax Abbey, and he goes through this ridiculous like Indiana Jones moment where you kind of see a map with like a little red line going through the map and everything. And as he gets closer to his castle, ridiculous things happen, and Keanu Reeves is just almost oblivious to everything that happens.
So he gets dropped off and picked up by another carriage driver, and this carriage driver is very looming and ominous. He is wearing like this Falcon-esque horned helmet, and Keanu Reeves is like, "You here to pick me up?" And the dude like turns and reaches, and I think this is like a cool shot. And there's no way he could reach him from the carriage. And I guess in a practical way, they zoom in on the character's arm, and it fucking reaches all the way over to get Jonathan Harker. And as it picks him up, this is one of the few times that Keanu Reeves actually acts, and it's like, ooh, look at that. His character has this look on his face like, what the fuck? And he's just looking at the hand on his shoulder as it ushers him into the cab.
And that arm has like scales or some shit. It's weird. Like, I don't really understand what... we can move on.
I mean, no, I wrote that down, like, well, that's fucking weird. Just to everything that happened. Like, the blue fire, the rocks falling, the wolf and everything. He's like, huh, that's fucking weird.
This is a strange land. He was fine with it.
Excellent.
I still don't understand the green fire, though, because I was like, is it a force field to keep people out? I don't know.
It appears again later on in the movie, and it, like, tunnels away into, like, the clouds so Dracula can control the weather, but fuck it, whatever, logic. What's that? I don't know. So this is the point where he gets to the castle and everything, and, Gary Oldman shows up as Gary Oldman.
Very old man, yes.
And he has titties for hair for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, why does his hair look like an ass? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's I've seen this movie a dozen times, and every time I picture the old version of Dracula, I just see the Mr. Burns parody from The Simpsons.
It's either that or that part in Little Nicky where he just puts tits on that guy's head.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking the whole time.
Devil's got a sense of humor, so.
Yeah. Then he ushers him into the house and he's like, "Come with me." It's like they make a big deal about him, stepping across the threshold. Dracula's shadow, which I thought was a cool thing, is never actually with Dracula. It's always somewhere else, and how they got shots is fun.
Yeah, it's always kind of like, they have this in other Dracula movies, but it's always nice to see, like, his true intentions played out with the shadow and everything. And once more, Keanu's just like, huh, this is fucking weird, and just continues about his day.
Dude, no shit. Like, the first time, maybe. I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know where the light's really coming from in this odd castle. Maybe I'm just, don't know. But there's a bit later when he's signing some shit for Carfax Abbey. He's literally looking at the shadow in his periphery to his right, and it's looking at him. And then he's like, turns to talk to it. The shadow fades back, and he's like, the fuck? And he turns to his left, and Dracula's chilling right next to him. That's when I would go, whoa. Wouldn't you at least ask, what the fuck? But he lets a lot of things go, which he doesn't address until way later.
I just realized in my notes I had written Keanu is goddamned clueless.
Yeah, well, there is a little bit where when he's writing back, or no, he's writing in his diary, I think, something like that. He's like, I think strange things that I dare not confess to my own soul.
Oh, I love how we have our own Keanu. It's good. It's killing me.
So he sits him down and he's like, we're going to, go over these documents, this kind of thing. We're getting them all signed. I'm going to come to London. I can't wait. It's going to be lovely. And then Keanu notices this painting, and it's like a young Dracula. And he goes, a relative? And he's like, yes. The dude just immediately goes, I see the resemblance. And then he says something about the relationship between the Order of the Dragon, the Dracula, and the church having a falling out. And Keanu Reeves snickers about it. Motherfucker whips up a sword and starts swinging it around. And he has this really cool line where he says, what devil or witch is as great as Attila, whose blood flows in these veins? And he throws the fucking sword down and starts talking about how the war times was when he could flourish, and now he's just like, no one gives a shit about me. And he just kind of throws the sword on the table. And again, this dude was just whipping a fucking sword 1 foot from Keanu Reeves' head, and he's just like, see, I've offended you. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah.
And once more, that was fucking weird. Carry on.
Yeah, he's just like, alright.
That might just be how they do things in Romania.
He just had every opportunity, that's why I have no sympathy for the guy. And shortly thereafter, he'd been there for 15 minutes, and he's like, I want you to stay for a month. I just need you here. Don't fucking worry about it. Whatever.
Yeah, he has no clue that apparently Dracula already knows that Elizabeth has been reborn, and she is in London. And this is his chance to separate her love interest. That way he could swing in and, scoop her up. The whole time that, Keanu's sitting there and he sees this picture of Mina, who is what she's called now, Winona Ryder's character, his shadow is strangling Jonathan Harker, and I thought that was really fucking cool.
It's kind of like the opposite of Peter Pan's shadow.
Yes. It's not friendly. It's like, if I could, I would fucking murder you.
If only I wasn't the absence of light. Nice.
Yeah. Then we cut back to Mina reading one of Jonathan's letters, or writing him a letter, I don't really recall. But then she takes a small break to look at the Kama Sutra.
It's Arabian Nights.
Yeah, was it really that,
I've never read it. I've heard things.
I know a guy. He's heard some things.
I just keep thinking of Aladdin,
Arabian Nights, full of pornography.
Yeah, didn't you know Aladdin and the Genie? They were nasty.
Well, sometimes you just got to get your diamond in that rough.
Oh, shit.
Is that the butthole?
So, we get introduced to Lucy, the headed step-friend of Mina. And she comes in, and Mina begins immediately talking shit about her kind of being a hoe. She's like, you're out there, with all these dudes. And then she's kind of chastising her for it, but then boom, drops the fucking sexual position book, and she's like busted as fuck.
And at that point I had written down Victorian whore or Victorian.
Victorian. Nice. My note for that is hashtag measures up. She's like, this Jonathan measures up, doesn't he? I thought that was pretty fun.
Jesus.
She then puts on display of her whorishness by messing with a Texan. He walks in, she's like, oh, it's so big. Can I touch it? And pulls out his Bowie knife.
Well,
remember the Alamo.
That guy in Texas.
Fucking remember the Alamo.
Then all of her other suitors decide to show up at the exact same time. Just have some fucking, bro party.
Yeah, we get Dr. Jack Morphine and the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Gets me every time. And they're just all clamoring around her, just trying to win her affection or whatever. And she's just fucking with all of them at that point.
Yes, the rodents are.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a different scene. That's on later. Okay.
And then you get Mina over there, and she's like, I wish I was as pretty and adored. And then you get this creepy Dracula's face in the sky watching her.
I had written down spooked by the eye cloud.
Spooked by the eye. He keeps her nudes in the cloud. We skip over to Renfield back at the asylum, and he's talking to Dr. Jack, and he's got a tray of hors d'oeuvres.
And the doctor, his doctor, keeps recording these little gramophone things, trying to like find this little genius in the madness. But then he goes on this like profound little trip or whatever, and then he just does heroin about it.
Yeah, it's like, what you doing? I'm just shooting the fuck up, bro.
Yeah, it's like, there's got to be something real here. Oh, he just fades away.
Well, they even do like a little shot of him after he shoots up. He's like rubbing it and like shaking like a dog when you fucking scratch its sweet spot.
God damn, England was a mess back then.
You get Renfield yelling about how he needs lives to the master. He was promised immortality. And then we cut back to Dracula and Jonathan Harker, and John Harker looks at the fucking door and no one's there, and then he looks back and suddenly Dracula's standing there with some fresh warm towels.
Oh, thank goodness. Room service is here.
Yeah. He lays the towels down and sees that he has spooked Jonathan Harker enough to make him cut himself while shaving. And he comes over, takes the razor from him, and he says, "Perhaps you should grow a beard." And he turns around and is like, fucking just licking the blood off the razor.
I love his little reaction, just like, oh god, yeah.
Yeah, fucking, I have ecstasy written in all caps.
Just like that guy who just shot up heroin.
Yeah, it's just
Maybe he's just blood horny.
It's like the scene from Blade, wherever they just fire up the blood sprinkler.
That's what this movie needs, just like hardcore techno.
I think that could actually help.
I'd be down.
He's like shaving him and stuff and like kind of rubbing on him. I don't know if that's part of it or what, because Keanu doesn't act very well through this movie. He just doesn't. But in this scene,
really?
He looks genuinely uncomfortable.
Oh, Gary Oldman's just having a good old time. He's just like, I'm going to do this just to see if I can get a reaction. Little does he know, like 1992 Keanu Reeves was just like a fucking, I don't know, a beach towel just laying there.
Yeah, there's no like real feedback to it until he finally, like Chandler mentioned earlier, has that reaction to where he finally blows up and starts saying, "There's all sorts of strange things going on here," and he says the word inferno. A bloody inferno. But he says it like a fucking redneck or something. It's so weird.
Goddamn dang inferno's outside.
Now it's bloody inferno? Oh man. Keanu Reeves is just, I love this fucking dude for what he does later in his career. But in this...
Yes. His just him acting and also the character is just so fucking clueless. It's almost maddening, because like as soon as he's like, man, everything around here is fucking weird, isn't it? And Dracula's like, yeah, I guess, whatever. Wolves outside. Cut the fucking Gary Oldman crawling around his fucking castle like a spider monkey.
And Keanu Reeves sees it.
Yeah, he's just creep crawling around.
Like, wouldn't you? You just saw this go, hey, what's you doing?
Get out of here, you spider monkey!
How you doing that? Nobody doing that.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. Dracula be crawling on windows.
So yeah, then you get Dracula talking to some whores. There's some whores and a baby involved. They're just vampire whores, blood whores.
Well, then it just turns into 3 whores and a baby.
Sir, Sir, it's called A Bed of Lies or Gypsy Vampire Harlots. I will say the breasts were welcomed, and the way they came out of the bed was kind of cool.
They literally came out of the bed. I mean, for like a hot second, I thought the bed was going to fuck him.
No. It's a mimic. But I will say, like, you know, you get to see the boobs. The way they came out of the mattress is really neat. It doesn't look forced at all. It's very practical effects. The sheets are moving, but you never see the dent where the woman is coming out from. It is always like even and looks good.
I do agree. I concur. My favorite part of the film was when the boobies showed up.
Ah, the boobies.
And now, even further, even if there was like a visible dent, we're not paying attention.
Yeah, this was maybe one of 2 scenes that actually had me go, all right, oh shit, that looks pretty good. Was whenever she sees the cross and she like hisses and it melts and then she licks it up. I was like, man, that's pretty fucking dirty. I like that.
And then the whole time, Keanu's just like, what's all this then? You know, this whatever.
Well, if you had 3 chicks rubbing on your junk, you wouldn't be like, oh no, this is a bad thing.
You guys, I think we're talking too much about the whores.
Is that a thing you can do?
I mean,
Dracula shows up, bringing them a baby to satiate them, to get them off Keanu, because that's his shit. That's his boy. And so the way they frame Gary Oldman's face just for this scene is so good. There's like the moonlight behind his face, and he like has this look of just menace as he's looking at the baby until you hear Keanu Reeves screaming in the background, and then he turns more so to the camera and a smile comes on his face, and when it does, he just starts laughing maniacally, and I was like, man, that's fucking dark. I like that.
I mean, yeah, there was a moment, and then Gary Oldman spikes the baby into the pile of horrors, and they just have at it.
Yeah, it's like, just get it.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Chili's.
Baby back ribs.
Barbecue sauce.
I love it.
Yeah, there it is.
So the next thing we know, we see all of Dracula's little minions filling boxes with special dirt, I guess, Transylvanian dirt, to be delivered to his new digs in London.
Yep, and Keanu Reeves knows he's got to make a break for it, and they start putting little things in order, but not before Dracula is cruising across the ocean on a ship known as the Demeter. All the while, a storm begins to rage, and we get treated to Winona Ryder and Lucy running around in the rain in silken nightgowns.
Like a bunch of sluts.
Yeah, they even give a little kiss, a little mwah, mwah, mwah.
Well, you know, if there's like a set of stairs with Winona Ryder, by all means, help yourself down.
Hey, look, that scene is nice. So, we're also treated to a scene during the storm produced by Dracula, as he metamorphoses into a werewolf inside of his box of Transylvanian dirt, of a white wolf escaping from the zoo with zero effort. It just walks through the bars. It could have left at any fucking time. It didn't need to be in the storm to leave. It could have just fucking left at any time.
Well, you know, it's not like a jail kind of zoo where they keep you captive. It's kind of like one of those ones where you can check in and out anytime as you please.
It's like a Air Z and Z.
Yeah, the boys are really more of a suggestion.
But the werewolf, you know, he starts killing the crew, eating them, drinking their bloods to get his strumpf back. And the boat, driven by the storm, arrives where we get Were Dracula running out and beckoning Lucy for some skins.
Yeah,
And boy,
homegirl
oh
done
boy.
fucked a werewolf.
I mean, I don't even know if it was willingly or not. You just straight up just like going the fuck at it. Then Winona Ryder just like shows up, catches him in the act, and the werewolf's just like, yo, John Cena, can't see me.
I got you. But he's like, no, don't see me. I thought he looked great, dude. Like, he's got like the facial exposure and like this big humped back looking thing. I don't know. I thought he looked fucking cool. Werewolf Dracula looks really neat. But this is also where he bites Lucy to infect her with his blood plague.
And he doesn't even like go away really. He just kind of pops a squat like 10 feet away as Lucy and Winona Ryder kind of escape. You know, just kind of hangs out. You know,
It's like, Lucy, what are you doing? You can't just go around fucking wolves. Get yourself together. Put that titty away.
I haven't that titty. That titty is out from now on.
Yeah.
Just one titty.
Oh.
Nope. Left titty is out. It's left titty Lucy.
I'm ready for it. Especially if there's a scene later on with Carrie Ellis. We're
Yeah,
coming.
she's like titty. Just sneaks it on out there. But yeah, he says don't see me, and that he's using his vampiric powers of suggestion. He never goes anywhere. He's just chilling there, but she doesn't see him. So after that, you get his boxes being delivered to Carfax Abbey, and narration by Sir Anthony Hopkins, where he explains that contrary to popular belief, vampires can in fact walk around in the daylight just with less powers. Pretty cool looking grayish blue suit, and he's the only fucking guy with sunglasses.
Well, I'm super glad he finally found some place to buy some clothes, because for like a good minute he just burst out of his boxes and he looks like he packed everything but a shirt.
Just naked. It reveals naked old man.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Why does his head look like an anise? Oh lord.
It's an anise. But this is where the love story kicks back in, and he's like, see me now. And Mina turns around, sees him, and then he's like creepily stalking her, almost.
Oh yeah. And he tries like a couple times just to kind of get her attention, and then I just wrote down Drac got no game, because it just wasn't working.
Yeah. He like even bumps into her, and she drops some perfume, and this motherfucker is able to grab it before it hits the ground, and he just reappears right at her face with it, like, what's up? And she's like, oh, thanks. People don't react to the incredible things that this person is doing.
Maybe it's just the English way, just like, pip, carry on, hi-oh, yep, yep.
Well, that was astounding. I'll just move on with my day. Yeah, but like you said, he makes a pass at fucking Winona Ryder, gets rejected, and she walks away, and then boom, he reappears in front of her around the corner, and she's not even, like, she doesn't care.
Turns out that Dracula's just a track star, jogged around the block. Oh,
just that quick.
odd to see you here today.
But he keeps spitting that game because, like, Sean Connery told us, 50 no's and a yes means yes. So he eventually gets her to say yes, and he takes her to the movie.
Taking her down to the Bone Zone at the Titty Theater, I guess.
For reals. Because that's the first thing he shows, like a smut movie. Where, like, two chicks are lap dancing on this guy, and he's like, hell yeah, and then all of a sudden, boom, it appears, and it's his wife. He's like, get the fuck off me. He shoves her away.
Well, I mean, how else are you going to fill these, like, old Victorian seats?
Evidently with wolves.
Hey, they're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Werewolf. Werewolf.
I understand that right.
Alright.
So, we got Lucy, and she's been bitten. It cuts back to her. She knows she's changing.
Yeah, she's turning into a diva, because she straight up looks like Queen Elizabeth in that fucking outfit.
Fuck yeah. What does Jack do with Dr. Morphine? Prescribes her, fucking shoots her up, and then goes and tells her hubby, I think your girl's going crazy, dog.
Yeah, that was back in the day when doctors thought that a woman's orgasm probably meant she had ghosts in her blood, and you should probably do cocaine about it.
Cocaine, morphine, one of those. If an upper doesn't work, try the downer.
Nah, well, they get all fucking 6s and 7s, and they wind up calling fucking Hannibal Van Helsing to fucking help everything else.
That's what happens. Then we get another treat of them back at the movie theater where I guess Dracula just can't even keep his shit together, and he has to, take her away. He says, don't fear me. Grabs her and fucking floats away with her into another room. And again, she's not happy with it. She's like, don't do this. And he's like, I have crossed oceans of time to find you. And I thought that was like a fucking cool line. Like, that's some shit that you could like spit to your girl and she'd be like, okay.
Just like Tears in the Rain.
Oh, rest in peace. But he can't bring himself to bite her because I guess he wants her to love him instead of being forced to love him, or doesn't want to wish that curse upon her.
Well, I mean that's cool. It's pretty progressive. It's better than the old rape and escape.
Yeah, club her in the head, buy her for a copper. It is what it is. So she tries to run away, and a wolf is there, and she's like, oh shit. And then, Dracula's just like, Strigoi! And the wolf like, what? And just comes over and chills with him. He's like, come pet this fucking wolf. And she's like, you know what? You were going to rape me a minute ago, but let me pet this wolf.
He likes you.
It's a nice wolf.
What was his name? Stromboli? Yeah, he's kind.
Then we get treated to Anthony Hopkins, introduced as Van Helsing, who is studying a vampire bat, and blood diseases, and venereal diseases.
Well, I think at that point we realize he's part-time doctor, part-time comedian.
Yeah, he's got some good fucking jokes. He's like, civilization and civilization have advanced together.
Room full of hoity-toity white guys.
They fucking knock on the little thing, like, talk, 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 talk.
He gets whisked away by the letter that the boys had written him, so I can get his attention and figure out what's wrong with Lucy and everything.
Hell yeah, hashtag the boys.
Hey, we got a girl over here in London, and she's going crazy, and she always has one titty out. So you probably need you need to come help.
I like that. I feel like that's what changed his mind. He's like,
Yeah,
we've got a crazy lady. What's wrong with her? P.S. Titty out.
one titty out, Tiddy. I'm like, he sees this and it zooms in, his eyebrow raises. He's like, titty. He's gotta go check it. But yeah, he shows up just in time for Dracula to be there for a late night snack on Lucy, who apparently anytime he draws blood from her, she is just fucking climaxing. It's the best thing ever. Like, she screams like a porn star every time she is on the screen from now on.
I mean, Dracula aims to please.
Dracula aims to please.
I mean, don't get the wrong idea. He is the Impaler.
Oh.
Damn.
But no, you're not wrong. She's pretty much from here on out like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, except a lot more erotic.
Oh,
She's pretty out there.
So all the boys and Van Helsing come in while she's in this sort of blood horny state. And Dracula scurries away, just like dripping blood.
They're just leaving it in a beautiful little trail.
I mean, room service will get it. It's fine.
And they decide that she needs a blood transfusion.
Stat.
You got ghosts in your blood.
And she needs to put that titty up. Because it's out.
Running a fever, have to cool down. Titty.
And then they're all outside having a smoke about it. It's like, well, what could be doing this? He's like, you studied some shit. What do you think it is? He goes, I don't know. Did something just come in there and suck it out of her? He goes, yeah.
Pretty much verbatim. He's like, yeah, exactly. What are you going to do about it?
And he's like, that can't be right. And he's like, you need to open your mind about things. And so he kind of does like a sleight of hand thing to where he disappears and reappears behind a fountain to kind of prove how fucking, I guess, hoity-toity they are.
That's just Van Helsing being silly.
He's having a good time, man. Anthony Hopkins is having a good time, and I enjoy it.
But you know who's not having a good time? Good old Keanu Reeves. Because he's been spending this entire time trying to escape that castle.
While the ladies have been draining his blood. And in the meantime, Dracula and Mina are drinking absinthe. Speaking of drinking absinthe, I had a Bloody Mary today in honor of this fucking movie. And goddamn are those things nasty.
Did you even have the little celery stick?
I didn't do the celery stick because I fucking hate celery. And so I was like, blood, whatever, let's do this. And it's fucking gross. I don't know how people drink that shit.
I like a good Bloody Mary like once a year, but it's got to be with tequila rather than vodka because I fucking hate vodka. But otherwise, yeah, I can get into that. But I went a different direction. I've got Dogfish Head's Flesh and Blood IPA here.
Blah.
Boy.
It's an IPA made with, let me see what it says here. Orange peel, fresh lemon, and blood orange juice.
Dang, that's not just orange, it's blood orange.
It's okay. It's pretty good.
So back to the movie.
Okay, pretty good. Does it got hints of blood and or orange?
You definitely get a full-on kick of that citrus, the lemon, the blood orange. There's a little bit of bitterness too there, not just from the hops, but in like a grapefruity way.
Yeah, I know the blood oranges are very sour and bitter for sure.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good, but I like pretty much everything from Dogfish Head. They're pretty much one of my favorite breweries.
Are they so good they should sponsor our podcast?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Do it.
Fucking
But yeah,
get
this is
on
pretty
it,
good.
Brewskis.
Sponsor. Are you sponsoring us yet?
Meanwhile, Dracula's over here playing Mr. Steal Your Girl.
For real.
Dang. He's
And-
trying his best.
While they're drinking the absinthe and shit, and he's like trying to tell her about all this stuff about how she is Mina or Elizabetha, she starts to, recall it on her own, and she even cries some tears that Dracula turns into motherfucking diamonds.
Diamonds. She'll pretty much have to.
Then we cut to Harker making his escape by plunging into the same river that killed Elizabetha.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves tried to Keanu leave, and he wound up crawling through miles of mud and shit, yet came out clean on the other side.
Jonathan Haka Dufresne. He finds a covenant, and you know the ladies bring him in. They're like, "Oh, we'll save you." And
I mean, I guess so. It's more like implied. Like it was kind of like a weird part of the movie where they just kind of like show a bunch of stuff in order of sequence, but then there's not a whole lot of time to actually absorb anything. They even go over it again, like through his random letters that magically make their way to Mina.
yeah,
Well, thank goodness that the good sisters of the Blessed Sacrament got a hold of me and gave me a bath because I smelled like shit.
Yeah, it's basically like the equivalent of Hoagie getting on the boat again after being eaten by the shark.
yeah. Like, why not?
It wasn't easy, I tell you.
So he sends off a letter to Mina, says pretty much, "Hey, I think you're in danger. You got to come here to Romania and we got to get married. We got to do this shit now."
Like ASAP.
Shotgun wedding with John Wick. Dang.
So she rushes off to do that and leaves a Dear John letter for our boy Drac.
A
And
Dear
this-
Vlad letter.
Ooh, Dear Vlad.
Yeah,
I'm
that sounds
digging
so
it.
much worse.
Yeah, but he reads it, and she's breaking it off with him, and you want to talk about an ugly cry. This motherfucker starts crying purple, and his face gets all vampiric. He's like, oh.
He cries like an absolute little bitch. Like a
Dang.
500-year-old little bitch.
But that's enough to like set him off. Like no longer is he trying to like drink Lucy. He's like, nah, man, you gonna die because my girl left me. So he goes to kill her, and at this point, Van Helsing has figured out that he's up against a vampire, and not just any vampire, but Dracula. And this
He's doing some
motherfucker
of that book reading.
gets excited. He's like, oh, and he goes running out in the middle of the storm that Dracula's, conjured up so he can come kill Lucy. And he's like, y'all need to protect her because he's coming. But I'm gonna go eat. She's a bitch of the devil. Yee-hee. A whore of darkness.
And then Cariello spends the rest of his time with Lucy, staring at her titty.
One titty that's out. It's just out there. And don't
He's just
forget,
sitting in a chair, legs crossed,
titty out.
staring right at it.
Devil's concubine. Wah-hey.
And he's just thinking, I wonder if she would notice if I booped it.
Just a little bean dip. So Dracula shows up and he fucking takes out, this random guy that you've never seen before in the film, just fucking wrecks him, and then he dispatches of the other two without harming them.
Yeah, that was one of the cowboy fellas.
Yep,
Yeah, I
Quincy.
thought the first guy
and-
was the cowboy fellow.
Nope, cowboy guy stays alive. He just gets knocked unconscious because he returns for later.
But
But-
can we talk about how we've got vampires turning into werewolves yet? Like, why is that? What is the? I don't. Is that in the book? Are
He
there
got all the
vampires
powers
that turn
of
into
beasts.
werewolves?
Yeah,
Which book
all
of
the
Twilight is this?
Well,
You're-
back in the day they had both. You didn't have to like peak Team Edward or anything.
Thank God he didn't sparkle.
Well, I mean, he had that ass hair, so.
I mean, he was also wearing that fucking suit from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, no. Later in the movie, when he's wearing that gold robe thing, looking like
Oh,
Ric
yeah.
Flair, he sparkles there.
Woo!
Yeah, he is styling and profiling.
Nature Boy Vlad.
Just in boots. Oh, he's a kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing son of a gun. But he goes in and he bites her as a wolf, and there's a literal blood explosion.
Oh yeah, she just explodes into a. She's like a fucking water balloon of blood.
Blood explosion. Like the amount of blood that goes everywhere doesn't
Turns into a blood ocean.
bleed, blood.
That's what happens when you get so blood horny that you blood nut.
Ew!
Oh. But the next scene, she's in a glass coffin, looking like Queen Elizabeth or something, and she seems perfectly fine.
We'll just
So
call
where-
it. Well, with all the garlic around her, she's just well preserved.
Yeah, but where did all the blood come from? Did she just like gush? Hashtag
Oh,
gush.
It was a heavy week.
Oh, shit. And then he goes, during the funeral, Anthony Hopkins' character, the Van Helsing, is like, Jack, come here. He's like, I'm gonna need some, mortician's tools. And he's like, oh, do you want to do an autopsy? He goes, no, I want to cut off her head and take out her heart. And Jack just turns around and walks the fuck off.
Oh,
He's
no.
just like, fuck, dude, come on.
The way he said it too. Autopsy? No, I just want to cut off her head and take out her heart. No, nothing important.
Very matter of fact and calm.
It is.
Which is just his character. He's just that wacky old doctor who is probably just like all over cocaine at the moment.
He's like, hey man, she's gonna come back to life. We need to be ready. And everyone's like, you're fucking crazy. So they go down to her crypt and they're waiting. And here she comes. And she's got a fucking child with her and is screaming. And they're like, Lucy! And she turns around and drops that fucking kid.
Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah, straight up just like plops the kid on the ground. Just
It's a marble floor and that kid hits hard. Like, boof.
yeah, just like got like a graveyard lobotomy just immediately.
The fucking dude rushes over and saves the kid. And she's like, oh, let me get some skins one last time.
And I like how every man in this movie is just like immediately seduced by whatever fucking floats by.
Yeah, they're like, ghost pussy? Where?
But Van Helsing eventually whips this thing out. And by this thing, I mean a cross. And she just can't take any of that.
No, yeah, he pushes her back into her sarcophagus with that. But this is really funny. She like goes down into it, comes up laughing, and pukes blood onto his face. I don't know how they got the projection to come out of her mouth, because normally what they'll do is they'll do that side shot and it's clearly like attached to the side of the face and it's like spraying, but this was front on, like you could see it, and it's like spraying out of her throat all crazy strong, and I don't know how they did that.
It was real blood.
Well, I mean, could be. She could have had some, smoking cough or something. We don't know.
It's just one of her talents. I mean, she was in the, Miss USA thing. That's her thing.
What do you do?
So Van Helsing does the whole stake through the heart, chop the head off thing. Takes care of business to move on. Goes back to Jonathan. Was it Jonathan or? It doesn't matter. It goes back to the boys.
Yeah, the boys.
And they ask, "What? Was she in great pain?" Yeah, she was in great pain, but then we cut her head off and drove a stake through her heart, and now she found peace.
And he's just like, good sir.
Oh.
Come on, man.
Just cutting like through this fucking roast.
The whole time he's just shoving food and drink into his gob.
Anthony Hopkins mentions that he thinks that he's after Mina, and so, John Wick immediately snitches. He's like, I know where the bastard sleeps. So we get like a cut of the boys rolling over to Carfax Abbey with some narration from Anthony Hopkins talking about his powers, weaknesses, that kind of thing.
The gang grabs their torches and pitchforks.
And we get treated to one last little piece of Renfield. And what I thought was, when I said spotty, like there's some moments where he's not very good, but in this scene he's solid. He says that he's a sane man fighting for his soul. And he tries to warn Mina that Dracula is coming from him. And the fact that they hid this bitch in an asylum is a bad idea all around.
It's like the last place you'd look.
But it
I
was
was
the
confused.
first
Why is Mina there at all? Is she supposed to be like just a lure?
They didn't know that he was there, and Keanu Reeves was like his replacement. So they try to figure out, see if they could find any additional information on Dracula that way.
Dracula. And we also get a first glance at Vampire Bat Dracula. And again, I think he looks fucking awesome.
Is that when he was being all wacky just before he turned into like a big fart?
Yes, right before he turned into the fart.
So he's like hanging upside down, and you see him just for a moment, and he turns into a fart clouds into the asylum, into the sheets, to where he's like, Mina, give me some skins.
More like, Mina, I'm a Dutch oven.
Yes, he Dutch ovens Mina for sure, after he kills Renfield, while the boys ruin his dirt boxes, and that's not a sexual pun.
Just wrecking those dirt boxes.
So they consummate their feelings for one another by Dracula slicing his ribs and letting Mina drink. I give you life eternal, everlasting love, the power of the storm and beasts of the wild, forever.
But then he's like, "Nah, bitch, I was just playing." But then she was
Yeah.
really into it.
Oh
Yeah, he's like, well, I guess I gotta let you go. And then he
Yeah.
gets like his blood nut.
I hate it.
Blame Chandler.
Yeah, once Dracula gets all gassy, things get real steamy.
But the guys return and they see Mina sitting there like making out with nothing, and then there's fucking Dracula Bat again, and fuck if he doesn't look cool. They film
All right, yeah, absolutely. The best special effect in the entire movie was like that. It's like what, half puppetry, half Gary Oldman on stilts kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. I legitimately, it took me aback. I'm like, the rest of the movie was kind of like whatever, and I was just making jokes about it. I was just like, holy shit, that's effort.
Dracula Bat is the best representation of like a humanoid bat vampire creature I have ever fucking seen. Like, it looks so...
And he was rightfully pissed that the boys came in to just cock block him on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, he had just got his blood nut, and he's trying to get his secondary blood nut. I mean, we don't know how they re-up. He might not have to have a 15-minute cooldown.
You know, he's like, he likes the cherry Gatorade. Don't ask why.
But then, you know, they're like splashing holy water on him and forcing him back into the corner, and they're like, no, keep him in the light. And again, it's kind of a cool scene. He goes into the darkness with the red eyes, and they put the light on him, and then he's just a big ball of rats.
Ah, rats. I like how they just tried to stop him. Like, he's like, no, keep as many as you can here. He like steps on one.
Yeah, it's like,
Just-
I don't even know what that's gonna do.
I was like, you got him. You
Oh,
got him.
I
pal."
have 1/34 of them.
No, 1/34. It's like he regroups later, and he's like missing his big toe. He's like, shit.
He's missing his blood nut.
Oh,
I've
we
got
can't
to
take
go back
blood.
for that one.
Blood. I need my blood nut. So now we begin like the psychic link between Mina and Dracula, and they're, you know, both sides are kind of using it to track the other. And there's like a really cool scene where Van Helsing is sitting next to the bed with Mina, and just for like 2 seconds, as the scene pops on, Dracula, Gary Oldman's character, is leaning on the bed also, and he fades out instantly. Like, that's just his mental connection there with her. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
And then the boys kind of get everything together. It's like, listen, we gotta head off Dracula before he gets back to his castle.
Yeah, because
Guess they're
Dracula...
planning on shipping on back to Transylvania,
back to
and they're
Mina.
like, we gotta cut him off at the pass.
Shipping up the Transylvania, whoa.
Yeah, shipping off to find his wooden stake.
But they don't
Ah,
realize that she has that little connection or whatever, so they bring her the fuck along for whatever reason. So every little move they make, every breath they take, he's watching them.
For reals. And they actually have the smarter plan, because Dracula apparently doesn't know about, you know, civilization or civilization. And he takes the boat instead of the fucking train. So these boys just cut him off pretty quick.
Oh yeah, they take the train through Paris, France, and then Budapest to get to Transylvania.
But his gypsies have, you know, fooled them again. He tricks them 2 or 3 times before they catch on that Mina is basically relaying the information. So they set her up as a decoy with Van Helsing, and they send him along to the castle, and they go to chase down his carriage. That way she won't know where they're at.
Meanwhile, Mina gets all bloodhorn.
Fuck yeah. She,
And
like,
once more, oh good.
she's like half ripping her boobs out, and like these, you know, the succubi from earlier are like encouraging her. But the faces they're making in the fire, they're like, this bitch is what he wants, for real. They just look so disappointed that this is the lady.
Yep, she's
And the
getting blood
entire-
horny. Doctor's just getting regular horny.
He just throws his face right in the tits immediately.
Yeah, it's like, this is in the fucking script. Alright.
You
And then the
got it.
vampire sluts kill the horse.
For whatever reason. But
Yeah,
it pisses Anthony Hopkins off to the point where it just cuts to him finding where they slumber and beheading all 3 of them.
Fucking chopping their heads off and throwing them into a ravine while screaming. Then it cuts to the boys chasing down Dracula's wagon. They have found him. It's time for the final showdown.
And
And
Dracula's
it's not
peeking
even...
up, peeking up from
Oh, go
that
ahead.
dirt. I was gonna say, sorry. Dracula's just peeking up from the dirt. That's actually, you go ahead.
His dirt box.
Oh. Yeah. But it's not even a showdown. Like, they kind of like get all together in front of the castle and whatever. They finally run into each other. And then the boys, they just start sporadically stabbing at him. No real rhyme or reason. Just like, hiya, stab.
Some shooting prior, like for the gypsies, some gunplay. Now, there is a stunt man. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he fucking eats it hard off the back of that carriage.
Oh yeah, the guy that he didn't fall all the way off. He was getting drugged by that little cloth thing.
Yeah, dude, like he fucking hits head first, rolls, and then still somehow grabs that thing. Like that dude fucking ate it.
That's okay. I mean, concussions. What are you gonna do?
Talk about the stuntmen whenever I catch shit like that because god damn do they not get enough credit. Like these dudes are fucking destroying themselves.
Meanwhile, we got cowboys versus vampires.
Dang, that's the real Wild West.
We don't need Daniel Craig fighting no aliens. Nope. We got Quincy fighting Dracula. So they start stabbing and whatnot, and like Eric was saying, there's sporadic gunfight. Dracula finally erupts from his box.
And does anybody else notice that Mina is doing like some Dovahkiin shouts?
Yeah.
What is that all about? I didn't get that part.
Yeah, he gave her the power of the storm.
Oh yeah. I thought she just wanted attention.
Oh. And like she's making the clouds rise that way, because the sun's not going to be down in time, so she's creating cloud cover so he can come out the box.
Oh, so it actually is just like that shout from Skyrim. All right.
There you go. And so Dracula pops out of the box just in time to get his fucking throat slit. You want to talk about anticlimactic? He pops out of the box. Jonathan Harker's like, bitch, slice! Cuts his throat.
Fucking spawn kill. What a bitch.
For real. He's just camping, waiting. Shit was fucked up.
Fucking campers.
And every time he got slashed or stabbed, everybody's like, no, wait. Continues to stab him anyway.
Yeah. And so he gets like the big Bowie knife chucked into his fucking heart. His throat slit. They're like, nah, let Mina handle this.
And he's like, stab, huh?
Yeah. And Anthony Hopkins has a really cool line, which I thought was neat. Like, especially if you take the whole movie into, like, retrospect. It started out with Dracula, Gary Oldman's character, doing all of these horrid things in the name of God. All this killing, putting other people on the pikes, this, that, and the other. And then later down the line, he's now the bad guy, and these people are looking to smite the world, or smite, Dracula from the world. And Anthony Hopkins, during all this killing and all this bloodshed, as he, finally kills Dracula and he retreats inside of his castle, he goes, we're all become God's madmen. All of us. As in, not only was Dracula, but now we are too. I thought that was kind of cool.
And then he nonchalance tells everybody how many people he's beheaded in his lifetime.
Oh, yeah. Well, why not?
37.
They stumble inside. They fall down. The power of love makes Dracula. There we go. Makes him no longer look monstrous. She gets to hold him one last time as the power of love restores him to his youthful self. She drives the knife that is stuck in his chest through, kisses him on the forehead, beheads him to finally release him at last. And the movie closes on a mural of the two of them in the same pose, just not decapitated. So it's it's kind of crazy to think this whole movie, he's doing all this. Everything he's done was to get back with, Elizabeta, even for this one fleeting moment. All of it was just for that one fucking moment. And I thought that was nuts. I love this movie.
Not blood nuts.
I suggest it. So, whatevs.
Yep, just a squirrel trying to get a blood nut.
Boom, boom, boom. Call my blood nut. I tell you.
Yeah. Just let a blood nut into your heart.
So, final thoughts?
I thought the movie was just okay. It was a movie that was trying to take itself a little too serious, but most of the people in this movie were just having a fucking blast, and it bled through regardless.
You know what I think? What I was thinking several times through the whole thing? This would be a lot better animated. Like, if we still had the style of everybody, but I really think that just certain things would come through a lot better with that sort of over-exaggerated style that you can get with animation, but you can't really get most of the time with real life characters, over Slavicism or whatever it is that is Dracula's accent.
Yeah.
And all of those little things that, or even a comic book, something like that. But Coppola had really high hopes for this, I'm sure. But and it definitely hit the mark in a few different places, but overall, kind of a whiff.
This movie to me is something that I've watched since I was little. I have found so many creative points that I've always loved, so many little lines and nuances in the way that, the characters move their faces, especially Gary Oldman. He sells so much in those times where the camera is just on his face. You get so many cool special effects. Chandler didn't like the werewolf, but the vampire bat creature is still, it's 2019 and I see that thing and I go, holy shit, that looks so fucking good. It would hold up against 99.999% of the shit they put on screen nowadays.
I mean, it's not really that I didn't like the werewolf. It's just, I mean, this is at least my second favorite movie where Gary Oldman turns into a werewolf, but, that's neither here nor there.
All right, Mr. Which one? The Prisoner of Azkaban or some shit?
Yeah.
I found entertainment where I shouldn't have, and that's probably it.
Yeah.
The movie really picks up in the last quarter, but other than that, it's okay. I'm glad I watched it. That's about it.
Solidly okay.
That was Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992. If you've seen this movie, have any comments or anything, just be sure to leave them in the comment section.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and hit that little bell icon right there so you know next time we've got another one of these brewing.
Check us out on the Facebook and the Twitters. You can get us on that social media.
Until next week, see you guys later.
Deuces. Let me bust a blood nut in your dirt box.